Today we talk about summoning magic in D20 Modern. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den. With me, your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. As you can see, we are still getting set up here. Books, tomes, and lore still need to be located, but hopefully will be soon. We have moved, we are unpacking and getting through all of that, but we'll save the update for the status of the channel and the Gamer's Den for another time. For now, though, we are going to be talking about summoning magic in D20 Modern. Now, this came up because, well, we're picking up where we left off, essentially, but I wanted to talk more about different magic spells, and I wanted to talk about making additions in. And the first thought that came to mind was, well, Summon Monster. The Summon Monster spells from Dungeons & Dragons. This would fit in real nicely and mesh easily. But I couldn't recall right off the top of my head what Summon Monster spell was present within D20 Modern. And had to look for a minute and realized, oh yeah, Summon Vivilor. What the hell is a Vivilor? Well, after looking into it, they are outsiders from the edges of the Plane of Shadow, or at least in this case, the Plane of Shadow is the Shadow Realm, the generic other dimension, other plane of existence, however you want to look at it, the area in which magic flows from into our world. So it's where all the magic items, all the different magic creatures come from. So you're summoning them from there. That's all the lore we know. There's very little written about Vivilors as an interplanar species or an interplanar beings. All we know is that they're outsiders, so they're in that same large, vague realm of, outsiders, which includes angels, devas, devils, demons, azatas, so many different kinds of creatures. But again, not really much known about them other than their species has a wide number of different kinds of Vivilors, and it's reflected in the spell themselves. So let's go ahead and just kind of get into this here. For Summon Vivilor, it's a first level divine or arcane spell, so acolytes and mages and the resulting other class options that open up with access to divine or arcane magic, get this, either side can summon them, so they're not constrained by being specifically summoned by clerics or wizards or whatever. It's a full round action to cast it. It's a close range spell, so you have 25 feet plus 5 feet for every 2 levels, and you summon one creature for 1 round per level. So if you're a 10th level mage, you can keep it around for 10 rounds. And you summon a Vivilor from the edge of the Plane of Shadow. You give it orders to attack, not attack, etc. And you can choose its form from a list, which is list A, which will be in a following picture here coming up. Second level has all the same rules, except that you can summon 1d3 first level Vivilors or 1 second level Vivilor. And this upgraded version of the spell allows you to pick out 2 choices from list A. At third level, for Summon Vivilor, you can summon 1 third level Vivilor with 3 choices from list A, 1d3 second level Vivilors, and 1d4 plus 1 first level Vivilors. So again, it's a fairly handy summon spell, and we'll get into the hows and whys summon spells are useful here in a moment. But then we move up to 4th level, in which case you can summon, you guessed it, 1 4th level Vivilor with 1 choice from list B, 1d3 3rd level Vivilors, or 1d4 plus 1 2nd level Vivilors. And then finally, for the 5th level version of this spell, you summon 1, get ready, 5th level Vivilor with 2 choices from list B, 1d3 4th level Vivilors, or 1d4 plus 1 3rd level Vivilors. Now, it should be noted that when you look at the Vivilor stat block, they're not the most impressive things ever, but that doesn't matter so much with summon spells, as what summon spells do is they help increase your side's action economy. That's on your turn, all of these creatures, if you summon multiples of them, get get to act and move and do different things. So they can attack, they can shift into flanking position, you can summon them in flanking positions, and you can do a lot to really disrupt enemy attacks. Not only that, but if your enemies take a moment to attack any of these Vivilors, whether or not the attack hits, that's an attack going towards a summoned creature that ultimately doesn't matter, and not towards the party. Not only that, but the abilities that you can give these Vivilors based off of what level of spell you're casting and the lists that you can access really do a lot to make them much more interesting. Again, they're probably not going to be on par with the wizard summoning them, but they're still going to be handy, and it's still a reasonably worthwhile spell. Definitely something worth having in your list. Now, for the lists of abilities that you can get, there's a lot here, so I'm not going to cover it in detail, but I will leave this image up for a much more significant amount of time than I normally would. List A, you can do things like give them the aquatic trait, which will give them a 60-foot swim speed. They can move in water without making swim checks. Bat wings will give them a fly speed of 60 feet. Then you have quadrupedal, which will give them four limbs to walk upon, increasing its ground speed by 20 feet, and they can also carry much heavier loads. You can improve their ability scores, giving them a +2 to their strength and constitution, which, depending on how many hit dice they have, that's extra hit points for them. You can also, going into list B, you can make them amorphous, so that they gain immunity to critical hits and massive damage, and they cannot be flanked. You give them extra limbs, which will gain them an additional 3 slam attacks during a full attack action. Now, those additional slams are treated as secondary attacks, so they get a -5 penalty to each of them, but even still, that increased number of attacks means that they have a statistical increase to their likelihood of at least hitting an opponent at some point. And if they hit, well, that's more damage out. You can even give them wings that give them a fly speed of 90 feet with good maneuverability, or give them metallic skin, which increases their natural armor bonus by 4. So it ups their defense, and that's not a small thing there. And given the fact that you can mix and match a couple of different versions of these, you come up with a staggering wide variety of creatures to summon and throw out on the battlefield. And the fact that they're customizable like this means that you're not going to be hurting for tactical options. So if you're dealing with flying opponents, you can give these Vivilors wings and allow them to fly after your opponents, especially if you're in a situation where somehow you don't want to be making a whole lot of noise, so you throw down a silent spell over the target, throw the Vivilors into the mix of it, so that way nobody hears their screeching or the screams of the people being ripped apart in midair. And say, you don't want to have a whole lot of gunfire attracting too much attention, if you can exercise that sort of discretion, which you probably should be, but that's neither here nor there. So, what does this have to do with summon monster spells overall and adding things in? Well, this gives us a template and actually a very good idea to work from. As the fact that we don't have a whole lot of lore and information on Vivilors means that DMs and players can work together to create their own lore, their own descriptions. They can go into much greater detail and customize these things to fit better within the setting. And if you decide to use this spell as a template for making other spells, you can easily branch this out to summon elemental spells, summon demon, summon devil, on and on and on, and you can do similar lists. Now, some of you who may be Dungeons and Dragons purists may be thinking, I'm not going to alter a goddamn Balor just to fit within this setting, and you don't have to do that if you don't want to. But I would also make the argument that given the infinite layers and realms of chaos within the Abyss, it's not necessarily going to stay by those rules, and that leaves you plenty of room and opportunity with which to exercise your creativity and come up with new demons. Not only that, but devils can certainly can and would certainly try to create new forms that blend in better within a more modernized setting, or better yet, within a realm. They want to fit its particular aesthetics, just so that they can fit in just a little bit better. Not that they're necessarily worried about long-term losses, but they want those long-term gains, and that requires a little bit of subtlety, a little bit of insidiousness, which is just something that they're inclined towards anyways. But on and on and on, and the idea is that you can use this again as a template to create your own different summon creature spells. Whether you want to get fantastical and dive into the realms of the Fae, dig your hands into the awful trenches of the 9 layers of hell, or through the infinite realms of the abyss, or through the massive, unimaginably gorgeous plains of Celestia. So, I would highly recommend that you do so. Doing that will add so much flavor, personality, and give interesting options to your players, and also help them to create characters who are much more distinct. You can create whatever rules you want. Say a person decides that they want to go with a summon angel spell. Well, you could write that to where it involves creating a pact with the heavenly realms that blocks them from accessing or learning spells like summon devils, summon demons. Other creatures may be a little bit dicey on, but it blocks their access, similar to how wizards, once they pick out a particular school, they are either blocked from or have a more difficult time with learning and casting spells from specific select prohibited schools. So that creates a lot of flavor and personality there, something that helps to make everything feel a bit more distinct and unique. And given that we have a template to work from, I think this is an excellent plan overall. But what do you think? Go on down into the comments below and let me know. Did I miss the mark today, or have I hit the bullseye and given you plenty of good ideas? Go on down into the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Hit the like or dislike button and let's engage in discussion, my friends. And if you haven't done so already, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. But with that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so much for your time, have yourselves a good night, and welcome back to the Gamers Den.